Hi, this is Sarah Meixel with 5M, and today we're here with Steve Nicholson, who is an economist with Rabo AgriFinance. Thanks for being with us
Thank
today,
you, Sarah.
Steve. Let's talk a little bit about the global economy and where things sit with the BRIC countries.
Sure. The BRIC countries, everyone knows, are Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Make sure I get that right. Three of the four have sort of struggled the last couple years. Brazil, of course, is having inflation and interest rates, and they're going to have an election here in October. The real has really fallen off against the world currencies, particularly the U.S. So Brazil's going through a tough time, and we could spend a whole segment just on Brazil. But we'll move on. China, somewhat the same thing. China's going through some financial upheaval. I don't want to make it any worse than it already is. But their economic growth, they typically were doing double digit, 11, 12% per year GDP growth. It's kind of dipped back to 7, 8%, and here in the U.S. we would be very happy to have that. And most countries would, but that's kind of, people worry about that. And then Russia being the third one, we don't really need to spend a lot of time with Russia. Russia's been in the news a lot, and not all positive. And we'll move on to India. India is the bright spot there, and I think that India is, it's the second most populous country in the world. It also has one of the very youngest populations in the world, which is sort of a surprise to me in doing some research. And so what you're seeing is it's a very highly educated population, and I don't want to discount the abject poverty there, because that's still a part of India. But you have a population that's growing in wealth and education, and they are moving up the food ladder, if you have it. They're going from that grain-based diet that we've talked about before to that protein diet, the meats, the poultry and pork products. And so that demands more protein, and so we're seeing India, I'm sort of classifying it as sort of the forgotten country. In agricultural circles, we talk about China, we go to China, we want to visit China. What's going on in China? And it's almost to a nauseam. And India gets left behind. They're the largest vegetable oil producer or vegetable oil import in the world. They do produce a lot of their own crops, and it's kind of why they get forgotten, because they produce a lot of sugar. They're probably the second largest sugar producer in the world. They produce a lot of oil seeds and groundnuts, and so they produce foodstuffs for their population. And so they're not that importer that comes in like Walmart, and just takes everything. But they do have a large import need, and I think that will continue going forward.
And from an economy base, I guess, what do you see for their overall future? Do you see them? The growth there in population will continue, as we see in China, correct?
Absolutely.
And so their need will likely continue to
and
rise.
Their need is going to continue to rise, because as that population again goes up that ladder, more money in their pocket, they're going to buy more food to eat at home. That's a little higher, higher up the food chain, if you have it. They're going to eat out more, probably. India has not been as westernized, if you have it, as China. So China, you see a KFC in every corner. In India, that hasn't been the case, and so that they're going to continue to be a demander of food products from around the world, and that's always good for production agriculture. And I think India is, as I say, that forgotten country, but a very bright spot on the map.
Very much so. It does feel like, in the U.S. anyways, it's not one that you hear a lot about in our general news.
No, you don't. And India is the largest democracy in the world. We often forget that. And if you look, I would challenge our listeners and viewers to look at, for those of us in the U.S., look at your neighborhoods and look at your schools and look at professions, and you see Indians in all over, in the schools, in the medical fields, in the IT and technology areas. They're everywhere, and they're raising families, and they're doing that here in the States, and they're doing that back home in India.
Very good, very good. Well, thanks so much, Stephen, for your time today.
Thank you, Sarah.
This is Sarah Meixel for 5M.